Here we got a screen, right? I'm going to show you how I got this screen made from start to finish. You know, no matter how clean you think your screen is, it probably isn't clean enough. It's always a good idea to do it properly, and that is to wet your screen, get your degreaser. This happens to be Chroma wet degreaser and adhesion promoter. Sounds good, doesn't it? Just put some on the screen. All right. Get a nice clean brush. And by the way, this brush I only use for degreasing. I don't use it for anything else. No painting the house or anything. Just the screen. Degrease the screen. Do both sides because it is a three-dimensional object. Now, once it's degreased, you don't have to let it set. You can immediately rinse it off if you want. Rinse out my brush. I'm done with this. Set to the side and rinse it off. Funny thing about degreaser, if you don't rinse it completely off, it's going to contaminate your screen. So rinse it off. Okay, it is now clean. Now, when you're making this screen, like I say, after it's been degreased and rinsed off really nice, it's a good idea to dry it in a drying cabinet. If you don't have a drying cabinet, by all means, don't put a fan in front of it, because a fan does two things. It blows air onto the screen, and the second thing it does, it sucks all the dirty air from the other side of the screen and puts it right back on your screen. So it can actually make your screen dirtier by using a fan. If you use a fan, make sure it's in a room that's pretty clean. Okay, I'm going to dry the screen. I'm going to put it in, and we'll let her dry. Once it's dry, then we're ready to coat the screen. Okay, now that your screen is nice and dry, next thing is to coat the screen. Now, when I coat a screen, first thing I want to do is I want to check my scoop coater, make sure it's in good shape. If my scoop coater has any nicks or dings in it on the edges here, you know what I do with it? I use it as a doorstop, because it certainly shouldn't be used for screen making, because it's going to put uneven amount of emulsion on your screen, and it could, in some cases, actually rip the mesh. So keep it in good shape. That's important. Now I'm going to be coating, what am I coating here? Hydro-X Blue. Hydro-X Blue, it's a very water-resistant emulsion designed for textile printers. It works great. If it's been sitting for a long time, it's a good idea to take your stick, reach in the bottom there, and just mix it up a little bit. Next step, pour it. And this is the part that gets messy. And that's one of the reasons I wear something like this, because I'd rather have it on my little apron here than all over my clothes. So let's just put some in here. So what next is, I'm going to show you two different ways to coat a screen. I'm going to show you first the way most people are going to be coating their screen because they don't have a coating stand like I do. All right, now what I've got here is my scoop coater. I have two edges on here, a dull and a sharp edge. I use a dull edge practically all the time. And the reason I use that dull edge is because it puts a lot of emulsion on the screen quickly. I guess because I'm always in a hurry. So this is probably the most used method. It's not the right method as far as I'm concerned, but it's the most used by people, especially when they first start out. All right, so I'm going to reach down here, put my scoop coater in there with a little bit of pressure against the screen. And this is important. You want to have equal pressure. And I'm going to wait a second, tip it forward, and in one smooth motion, draw it up. Not too fast. Okay, that'd be known as one coat. But 2 coats is minimum as far as I'm concerned. The last pass always ends on the squeegee side. And the reason is because you're pushing this emulsion through the mesh. That'd be known as a 1-by-1. If you look, you can actually see the emulsion on the screen. Okay, I showed you how most people are going to coat their screens, especially the smaller shops that don't have a lot of room or equipment. They do it basically on the floor like that. I prefer this coating rack. It holds my screen nice and tight for me, and it does the job. Also, in the first part, I showed you coating with one hand. Ideally, you should be using both hands to coat a screen, especially if you're doing lots of them. Now, when I coat the screen, I put the scoop coater, coating trough, whatever you want to call it, on the bottom of the screen like this. And I tip it forward. I wait just a few seconds for the emulsion to actually flood the screen evenly across there. Once that happens, then I can pull up in a nice smooth motion. It's one coat. Always end on the squeegee side. I don't know if you're going to notice this or not, but notice how I hardly ever move my arms. It's my body that I'm moving when I'm pulling up. When I get close to the frame, I stop, tip it back, and let the emulsion go back into the scoop coater. That way, you don't get a bunch of emulsion on your screen. Okay, when the screen is done, after coating, you have to dry it squeegee side up. That's important because what you want to do is have the emulsion flow, because gravity is going to pull that emulsion to the print side, the important side. This is the side that comes in contact with your substrate. What I mean by that, with your shirt or whatever you're printing, this is the side that's important, because the better gasketing you got, the better contact you got, the better a print's going to be. So it's important you dry it squeegee side up. If you don't have a drying cabinet, squeegee side up in a darkened room. And speaking of a darkened room, it's important, if you notice, everywhere you look around here, I have yellow lights. Yellow lights are safe lights. They keep UV from actually exposing your screen, because until it's ready to go on the press, it is light sensitive. Make sure it's in a drying cabinet or a darkened area. That's important. Also, if you're using a drying cabinet, 110 degrees Fahrenheit is a good temperature to dry your screens at. Typically, a screen will be dry in a half an hour or so in a drying cabinet. If it's sitting out in a room, it's really going to depend on your ambient temperature and humidity. Okay, the screen's nice and dry. I got my positive already. So next thing is expose it. Now what I'm using here is a LED exposure, the quick image. And it is quick. So again, make sure the positive that the film of the emulsion is against the film of the mesh. Again, this is the side that is come in contact with your screen. It's important. If you do it backwards, it's not going to work as well. Put that on the screen. Okay, my screen is now set. I'm going to drop it down. Turn on my vacuum. Well, what this vacuum is doing, that's sucking the air out of the screen, or out of the frame, And what that's doing is going to give you a perfect contact of the positive to the screen. Perfect contact's important. The better contact you got, the more accurate it is as far as reproduction of what you're trying to do. Now you can see here, it is drawn pretty tight. I'm exposing it for 35 seconds. Now, what you should do if you don't know what the exposure is when you start, first thing is look at the user guide. It actually gives you a starting point. If that doesn't help you, next thing you can do is do an exposure test. And that can be a little more revealing as a proper exposure, but it's something you should be doing. So I'm going to expose this for 35 seconds. Now, when you're exposing the screen, not all lights are equal, okay? UV wavelength is what exposes the screen. And believe it or not, the UV wavelength that exposes the screen, you can't see it. It's invisible to our eyes. These LED lights are designed to expose the screen properly. Not just any bulb is going to work. All right, my screen is now exposed. Now, it's important that you do both sides of the screen, just like when you're degreasing, do both sides. If you've exposed your screen correctly, it can withstand a lot of water. And believe me, you want to make sure it's rinsed out really good. If you're washing it out and it starts to fall apart, chances are it's because it's underexposed. And one of the things I always do is I touch the inside and I just rub it back and forth, see if I get color on my finger. If I get color on my finger, guaranteed it's underexposed and you're going to have problems. Matter of fact, that is one of the warning signals that you are going to have a problem during printing. Anytime you can get any color on your fingers on this side, you're in trouble. If you can actually see where you can see the edge where your positive is, that edge is actually showing that you've got a little bit of underexposure going on. It may not be serious. If it's a real light image, no big deal. But if it's real noticeable, you got problems. After it's been rinsed out, it now can be dried in your drying cabinet. And it does not matter if you dry it squeegee side up or squeegee side down or whatever. But try to keep a fan off it. Fans just are dirty. It's not important how you dry it. So I'm just going to put this in my drying cabinet. Right down here. If you have any questions on how I got this screen done, or if you have any questions on any emulsion or printing issues, call Chromaline. We can help you.